Hey, Graham.
Hey, Ray, how you doing?
Good, good. Good to be on with you. Um, First question. Um, have you heard about the Russians being responsible for those fires in California?
Yeah, I heard it was the is that for real or are you joking?
I thought you were a comedian, so I thought I'd start out on a light note.
I was like, yeah, that's right. The Russians and Jill Stein did the fires and a bunch of angry burn bros, from what I understand. And yeah, none of it's Hillary's fault. So uh,
And it actually, have you heard that Senator Nelson in Florida says the Russians are hacking into his systems there to help his opponent in the race for governor? The Russians are doing that too.
oh wow, that's
Yeah.
it's weird. Whenever there's a progressive, suddenly there's Russians.
And both of those are based on what these people call inside FBI sources and briefings that have been given to them.
Mhm.
But the interesting one, the one that is most in my mind, comes from Greg Palast, the wonderful investigator of our election system, who says that he has found out that the Russians gave those Georgia Republicans the idea of closing all those polling places in predominantly Black areas. Can you imagine? My God, they're all over the place. They're, now, why would they do that? Why would they do that, Graham?
Why would people find a boogeyman? My guess is the height of defense spending was in 1980, at the height of the Cold War, and then defense spending hit an all-time low in 2000, and then obviously spiked after 9/11, and we need a new boogeyman, a new arms race, and like it's kind of insane to me, because not that Russia doesn't do nefarious things, but that we act as though we do nothing nefarious. The United States has never done anything wrong. We're always just like reacting. We're just the good. What happened? I don't know why we. And it's the thing. I'm off. If you want to investigate Russia and their hacking of the election, great, go for it. Why are we then not investigating the DNC's
Hmm.
primary?
Aha.
Why don't we investigate all of let's investigate all of it then? Like if and of course that's the constant thing, is then if if I if when I bring that up, oh, I'm told literally stop litigating the 2016 election, and yet that's what they're doing with this RussiaGate.
Yeah.
So then they should stop relitigating the 2016 election or litigate all of it.
Yeah. Well, apparently, all kidding aside, that's what's happening in terms of the investigations, because it's the height of irony. But out of the special counsel investigation have come people who have a strain of honesty in them, even in the Department of Justice still. The Inspector General, for example, who who got incredibly damaging information about how they let Hillary off easy, actually let her off completely, and tried everything they could do to sabotage Trump's campaign. This is coming to a head now. It's not going to be funny because the stakes are really high. You
Mhm.
have, the head of the Justice Department, head of the FBI, head of the CIA, all involved in this. Now, am I making it up? No, I'm not making it up. This is on paper. See, people don't understand. You have to understand first and foremost that everyone thought Hillary because it was going to win. Now, I was with Julian Assange 3 days before the election. I visited him at the embassy there, the Ecuadorian Embassy, and he was just completely washed out. Not only was his color sort of pale pallor as usual, but he had just done everything he could to expose the information that he had without treatment and without doctoring or fooling around with it, so that people could know before the Democratic National Committee how Hillary had literally stolen the nomination from Bernie Sanders. Wow. So he was just kind of depleted. And I said, how's it going? And he said, well, John Pilger, well, he interviewed me. It was a great interview. And we want to sell it to the BBC. BBC wouldn't pay for it. They wouldn't take it from them. They wouldn't take it gratis. Sky News, Channel 4, nobody would take it. And so John gave it to RT just to get it out there a day or two before the election. So mixed review here. John did everything he could, of course, but RT was not the favored way to get the story out. So he was just, we had a beer, and he was just really, really, and there was not a hint in our conversation that he expected Donald Trump to win. He wasn't in it for a win or a loss. He was in it to inform the American people what had gone on. And that's the information he had. And so he put it out. So there was a great sigh of kind of relief. I don't know how it feels. You do everything you can, right? You do everything you can, like you get Pilger and you try to get the BBC and Sky News and Channel 4 and all. You did it. It didn't work exactly the way you wanted, but at least you did everything you could, right? Now, the next night, no, not the next night, the earlier night, I was up at Oxford. And I was in one of these Oxford debates. And who was I debating but Jill Abramson, the head of the New York Times, until just before. And she was bragging about the New York Times telling the story and, all of this business. And I said, the New York Times really withholds stories that they know that Americans don't really deserve to know. And they have 110% support for Hillary Clinton, which is sort of crass. It's just so blatant. And she said, well, she's going to win. And everybody in that august group of Oxford students thought she was going to win. I thought she was going to win. When I got to Germany, I tuned into the TV early in the morning, and the German anchors were beside them. They couldn't figure out what to say. So, it was such a shock to everyone. But what I'm saying about Julian is that he did his job, okay? His job is a very unique job. That's why they're after him. That's why they're after him big time. That's why they've held him incognito since late March. They don't want, see, when they phoning up evidence to show that WikiLeaks got it from the Russians, and they're going to have to phony it up because there isn't any, then you got to keep Julian incognito, or you got to keep him incommunicado, so that he doesn't say, well, wait a second. Now, actually, if you're interested, here's how I got it. Because I suspect that the fellow that they got it from is now dead.
Yeah, and that's he's very in my opinion, Julian Assange's moral compass is very very in line. I mean, he's not going to give up his sources no matter what. I'm wondering if, and many of us have, if when he passes, and if then he will, that's when he will reveal his sources. We're all wondering if it was Seth Rich, but that's the thing that is so perplexing to me, and it is such a problem, this sort of team tribalism attitude in America of, I'm going to cut my team. If my team cheats, it's okay. But if your team cheats, it's the most egregious crime ever. And, I voted for this person, so I'm going to cut them more slack. And in fact, it should be the opposite. We really, in America, if I voted for somebody, I should actually hold them to a higher standard, because I voted for them, and I voted for them because they said they were going to do this, 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 and this. And I voted for them because I thought they were ethically responsible and they had a platform that I stood for. So if they abandoned that platform and or got to their position by cheating, I should be the most outraged. And we just refuse. It's insane to me to watch this happen in America. The utter, like, people have just say these bold-faced hypocritical contradictions, and they don't even realize it. Like, if as we just discussed, and then everyone's so mad at Julian Assange. Oh, he's a Russian operative. I mean, I saw Hillary said that the WikiLeaks is connected to the Kremlin in an interview after the election, and I'm just like, what is this? How is this? If I give you, if people come to you and say, here, this is data, this is information about these crimes or lies or whatever, and you just put it out there. It is literally everyone's trying to kill the messenger and think that he had it in for the Clintons. No, the Clintons he put a lot of stuff out there about the Republicans and the Trump. He's called out the powerful for however many years now.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that he is now basically in solitary confinement, he is a political prisoner, who, I don't know the condition of his current health, but it doesn't sound like it's good.
Yeah. And
people forget, I don't know, like we've all been so bamboozled. We're all especially, and by us, I mean Americans, we're all the lobster in the boiling pot. So we're so clueless that, recently, since the last time I was on one of this vigil, we have a bunch of unelected tech billionaires making decisions about First Amendment rights on social media. And they can just dictate everything. And it's a private business. Well, you know what? If everyone's using Facebook and everyone's using Twitter, is it private?
Mm-hmm.
And you're just deciding who gets to say what. And, all these, like Caitlin Johnstone being shut down on Twitter. And, all she does is call out the powerful. And then when you do that and you have any sort of following, then they see you as a threat and they either try to buy you. And if you're somebody like Caitlin Johnstone that you obviously cannot buy, then they smear you. They come up with crazy, obviously you can't buy Julian Assange. So they make all these false accusations against him. And it's really troubling that people don't realize how then they can do this to anyone. They can, and the message is clear. Shut your mouth and just be a consumer and buy stuff and only get outraged at ridiculous stuff like Stormy Daniels or Tom Brady's jersey or some nonsense like that, whatever new Kardashian breaking news story, get mad at that crap, but don't really pay attention.
Yeah. One of the biggest gaps in my view is the reluctance of Robert Mueller or anyone to go interview Ambassador Craig Murray. Mm-hmm. He'll be on later, and you're in for a treat. Craig is not only articulate, but he's funny as hell. He might rival you in your profession. I've debated him in Oxford twice, and it's been really interesting. Anyhow, he makes fun of me, so beware. The fact that they haven't even talked to him, even though he has said that he'd been in touch with someone connected with the leak, not the hack, but the leak, speaks volumes. And you have all kinds of other things, I'm thinking that it's so blatant and people are so drenched with the propaganda lines that we need some satire, we need somebody to kind of do a job on these guys, Now there's some guys doing, maybe you're doing that. I'm not really following.
Well, it's funny. We're trying to do more of that. There's a handful of us, like progressive comedians. It's difficult because in show business, most comedians are either they're neoliberal at best. Most of them just are like, I don't want to pay attention because being outspoken is not profitable. Mm-hmm. You're not going to get on late night TV or get a sitcom if you're outspoken and you pick a side. You have to be sort of, don't make waves. And wow, why are you being so political in comedy? Which is just hilarious to me because, I don't know, Lenny Bruce, George Carlin. I don't know. I mean, it's really Dick Gregory. These people were very pointed. And you bring up satire, and I think we're trying to do more of it. It was my longtime friend, Jimmy Dore. I was on his show maybe 4 or 5 weeks after the election, and I hadn't seen Jimmy in a couple of years, and I wasn't aware that his YouTube channel had really blown up, and I wasn't really that aware of what he was doing on TYT. And I saw what he was doing and how direct he was speaking and calling out the powerful. He wasn't calling out just this party or that party. He was calling out the powerful. And one of the most profound moments I've had as a performer, I've been a stand-up comedian since I was 18 years old, was doing his first ever live show. And the response from the audience. And then in July, we did the Thalia Hall in Chicago, and it was a 600-seat theater, and it was sold out. And so he had me do 8 minutes of material before the show started, and then he does a show, and then Steph Zamorano, the miserable liberal, and I were on the panel. And they just introduced me as, ladies and gentlemen, the political vigilante Graham Elwood, and I got this huge round of applause. And I've done 1,000-seat theaters. I've had standing ovations. I've had fantastic shows, and then I did 8 minutes of political material, and the response was just, it was one of the more profound moments I've had in a 3-decade-long career.
Wow.
And it showed me that it's what you're talking about. People are hungry for political satire about this, because it can be pretty dire, when you follow this stuff. And I do 10 to 12 videos a week for my show, Political Vigilante. And, I'm covering this story and that story. And it's just like, this corporation bought out this, and they, and it's just like the environment, it can be, and what they're doing to Julian, you're like, oh man.
Yeah.
And you got to find some humor in it.
Yeah. Let me suggest some material for you. I've been accused of being a cleaned up George Carlin. Okay, used all his words, right? I even look a little like him, or used to. I did an hour-long piecing together of RussiaGate for my Veterans for Peace friends out in Seattle about 3 weeks ago. Took some trouble to kind of go through it step by step, not going off on my typical detours, and making it possible for them to kind of see what happened here, what happened there, and especially the things that they don't know about. Now, what nobody knows about, and what might be some material for you, has to do with Vault 7. Do you know about Vault 7?
I'm not that familiar with Vault 7. Please inform me.
Let's read the New York Times then, because it's been kept out of vaults. Okay, long story short, John Brennan of the CIA 5 years ago set up a new directorate. We're talking thousands of people, right? And it had to do with developing cyber tools. Cyber tools, okay? They had a lot of help from NSA, but CIA does the operations, okay? What are these cyber tools? Well, they can take control of your car, make it go 110 miles an hour. Has that been done? Well, what happened to Michael Hastings when he was writing a book about John Brennan? Okay, they could use one of these South Korean TVs, ostensibly off, to monitor everything that's going on in your bedroom. Now, this was March 2017. Those stories, the taking control of your car and the using a TV, those cyber tools were reported duly by the New York Times. But then on the 31st of March came the cyber tool called Marble Framework. Now, what's that do? That allows you to hack into a computer or a server, disguise who hacked in, and leave telltale signs like, oh, Cyrillic, or the name of the first head of the Russian KGB, and make it appear. Okay, now they're working in 5 languages: Chinese, Persian, Arabic, Korean, and Russian, Cyrillic. Okay, now CIA used that capability in 2016. Whoa! The report goes up, okay, and Ellen Nakashima, who writes for the Washington Post, didn't get the memo. The memo said, don't don't touch this, don't touch this, don't touch it. She writes a great story saying CIA cyber tools revealed in important disclosure, okay? The rest of them don't say a word. Ellen, all of a sudden, she doesn't say a word. Now, you don't have to be a crackerjack analyst to think that, those Russian hacks, those telltale signs, this Guccifer, who we can establish by forensics is a fraud from the way go. Maybe Guccifer too. Maybe he's really John Brennan. So there's a lot of material to work with there, especially since Americans don't know about Vault 7 Marble framework, and it would be really neat for them to learn about it in a jocular, to the degree the issue it admits that, a jocular way that they can assimilate and say, my God, whoa, is that really what's going on? The last thing I'll say is that I think RussiaGate and the deep state, which is pretty much going to fight this tooth and nail, is the transcendent issue. And how many money laundering schemes Trump did back 10 years ago, that could be, as you know, beside the point. If we could focus on this so that when push comes to shove, and I expect the denouement to come this fall, if the people can look at someone like you and be amused and shocked at the same time, man, that would be a terrific use of your profession, which I really applaud.
Well, Ray, I first of all, I appreciate you bringing that up. It makes me realize I want to do some more research on Vault 7, and I'm going to do some videos on it for my political vigilante show, because I want to get more informed, and I want my followers to get more informed. And secondly, to your point, that's one of the things when I started doing my show Political Vigilante a little over a year and a half ago. I started January of 2017. I had 164 subscribers on YouTube. Now I have 9,700. And that's with YouTube throttling me. I've been at 9,700 for 3 months now, which is a statistical improbability. Like it's not possible. I should be at 15 or 20,000. The way they used to do it, now they've throttled anybody who's got an independent voice.
Wow.
If I was doing 10 to 12 cat videos a week, I would have 20,000 subscribers. But when I'm calling out, anytime I put a video up that has the word Yemen, war, Saudi Arabia, Iraq, Afghanistan, it is automatically demonetized. They will demonetize it as it's uploading.
One of my friends, Peter Van Buren, and our veteran intelligence professionals for sanity, had all his Twitters, all his tweets dissolved into thin air. He's prohibited from, he's the one that said, we meant well in Iraq, and he told the real story about Iraq. So the fact, as you pointed out before, that they can do this kind of stuff. Maybe someone as smart as Susie Dawson or some of her friends can figure out a way to circumvent YouTube on this and figure out somehow a way to figure out, well, I can't even vocalize it, but something needs to be done.
What I would like to see, one of my long-term goals, excuse me for a second, little green tea out of my Batman mug, is I want to make, because I've been working in show business for over 20 years, and it is there's 5 major, there's 5 multinational conglomerates that own every single major media outlet, right? So they control everything. I was hired by they'll remain nameless, a big movie review, an online movie review company that's parent company is one of these massive corporations, to do a live, and it was potentially for online content, a live movie review game show, right? I was going to be the funny host. I've hosted game shows in the past. And then the producer called me after several weeks of him and I, figuring out what the platform of the show. I was sort of helping in the creative process of creating what the show would be. Called me to say that I was fired. They had to let me go because of my Twitter feed. And this was the summer of 2017. They were trying to pass single-payer healthcare in the state of California, and California State Assembly Democrats killed it. Anthony Rendon, for starters. And that's all my Twitter feed said. It didn't have swear words. I wasn't like, oh, all caps, I want to burn the White House. I wasn't saying anything crazy. I was just saying, here's California Democratic Party stopping single-payer healthcare. And I was fired. I was fired for speaking the truth. And they did that to a game show host comedian with a little political YouTube channel. And what I've realized, especially in this last year and a half of doing this, I would like, and if there is such a thing as like a progressive billionaire, to form a online network. Like, I want to blow my channel up, or not, so that's a poor choice of words in this day and age. I want to expand my YouTube channel to provide not just news, but entertainment. Like, I would love to have a late night style talk show, but interview actual people, like have Chris Hedges on there and have all these people that will not be allowed on mainstream media. I bet you Caitlin Johnstone's a great interview. You know, I bet you Katie Halper would be an amazing interview, and then write comedy, movies, and all this that have a political and a social bent. You know, in the 20s and 30s during the Depression, theater was like the main medium, and that theater was so political. It was so political. So that's, I know we're about ready to wrap up here. I'm going to start interviewing the next person, but that's my overall goal, is to, and we could create an online, like our own, like progressive YouTube or independent, that we can speak and it's not throttled by a massive corporation, and we can get all these voices and all this information out there. That's my long-term goal.
Graham, one last thing. I hope you succeed in that goal, and I'll help in any way I can. Last thing is that if you look at the chronology, it was on the 31st of March, 2017, when Marble Framework was revealed by WikiLeaks. 13 days later, the head of the CIA got up at a think tank and said, WikiLeaks is a non-state hostile intelligence service. A couple months later, or several months later, Julian Assange is made incommunicado. So that's why they hate him. They hate him for revealing, or being able to receive leaks. And these are bona fide, authentic leaks of original CIA documents. So it all ties together that way. I welcome your interest in Vault 7 Marble Framework.
You got it. Thank you. Thanks for bringing that up. And I'm not sure now. I think I interview the next person. I'm not sure what the next process is.
I think that's right. And I expect someone will intervene shortly, like Susie or someone.
All right. Well, Ray, it was great talking to you. And thank you for giving me information about Vault 7.
Well, yeah. And I should mention that RayMcGovern.com is an incredible website run by my son down in LA there, who has done his own documentary called The Other Side Documentary.com. It's about him interviewing hard right people on two trips across the United States in an attempt to understand where they're coming from. It's really quite good. The Other Side Documentary.com.
Okay.